Great. Glad to see people are so excited. All right. So, hello. I am so happy to be joining all of you folks, all of you fantastic, lovely human beings going into 2021 for this live recording of episode 16 of Inspiring Insights. So this is actually our last episode of the year of 2020. This was our inaugural year. We started this year and we're going out with a bang here with Bree, my co-founder of Reawaken. I am your host. My name is Erin Edwards, and I'm in the business of amplification. And what I really mean by that is that I looked inside myself and I asked the question, what makes me feel alive? And this year I needed to ask that question to myself several times, I think. And the answer was really born through the development of this show called Inspiring Insights. And what really made me feel inspired is what makes me feel alive, and hearing the beautiful passions of others in the wellness industry, I think, is really what keeps me going. So yeah, that's pretty much why I started this vodcast, if you will. And I absolutely love sharing and hearing the passions of practitioners that are around me doing the amazing work that they're doing with women and with non-binary folks in the wellness industry. So really guiding folks to their optimal health, their optimum life. And from that, Bree and I, as folks may know, we actually founded a company called Reawaken Co this year. So that what Reawaken is an online education platform. And we're focused on connecting you to the right network of natural and wellness providers so that you don't get lost in what seems like somewhat a broken system that we've inherited. So go ahead and follow us on social media. We're at Reawaken_Co. That's just CO. This is our show, Inspiring Insights. Welcome. And we are guiding you to be and to live in a more conscious world, because why the heck not, right? So if you are joining us live, like I said, there's a chat on the side here, comment section below. I love seeing all of your beautiful names and faces pop in. Please write in the chat where you're from, where you're doing, what brought you here tonight, maybe how excited you are, like Vanessa already wrote. And for everyone watching the replay here, we feel you, we feel your energies, and thank you so much for tuning in and doing this for yourself. Mm-hmm. So today I want to bring a very special guest into the spotlight. Brianna Mhar is joining us today. Thank you, Brianna.
Thank you for having me, Erin.
Of course. So, Brianna, you are a certified transformation and mindset coach living here in Toronto. Mm-hmm. Your mission is to make this folks' last time, the last time that they actually start over. And I love the way you worded that in your bio. Really that, make it their last stop for transforming their own lives and empowering them to become more self-sufficient with their own health and wellness lifestyle. And I really like what you said. It's, we think that often when life changes on the outside, we will change on the inside, but it's actually quite the opposite. I know you work a lot with your clients on mindset in that regard. And, through Bree's own life journey, just for everyone tuning in here, and through just myself knowing her personally, she's been working and coaching clients for more than 7 years. And, quickly do you realize when you become a coach that transformation really begins with that person and not actually with their coach. The coach is more for accountability and knowledge and wisdom, and the real innate wisdom comes from coaching, from literally that person that you're coaching. So I really like Bree because she puts that into perspective for folks, and she really helps uncover their why and finally step into that version of themselves that they're really truly desiring, and people want to become the most empowered, beautiful, powerful person that they are, right? And so Bree really uses a lot of different modalities, which include fitness training, nutritional guidance, mindset coaching, and energy work as well. So I'm really excited to have Brianna Mhar here tonight. Bree, welcome.
Hey, Thank you so much, Erin, and thank you for the introduction. Yes, like Erin said, I'm extremely excited to be here. We, again, started Reawaken Co, I guess, in its inception as Queen Wellness last year, but we definitely made a lot of transitions to it becoming Reawaken Co this year. So very, very passionate about that project. And like Erin said, there's not too much to add to that, but it's definitely how I have transitioned my coaching practice, and what truly drives me to show up every day to help women is, like she said, change starts from the inside. And I know that sounds cliche at times, but there's so much information all over the internet. You can go Google a health, fitness, nutrition, wellness plan right now. You could, and you could find all that information, but will you stick to it? Mm-hmm. And the answer is probably not, right? None of us really do, because there's things holding us back from within that are individual and unique to each of us that need to be moved, shifted, out of the way. And that's where change stems from, and then that radiates outwards. So yes, very excited to be here today. Excited to jump into our topic too, talking about shame surrounding food. So something that I'm very, very passionate about, and excited to chat about today.
Yes, Bri, and I cannot wait. I can't wait. This is, especially around this time, around the holidays, people are overeating for sure. People may be undereating. People may be eating their addictions or eating their feelings, and I'm really, really excited to dive into this, this essence of releasing your shame and guilt around the food that we have, and I love your stance from it, because as we said, change really starts from the inside out, and food is so part of that. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, Bri, maybe just to start us off, where does mindset fit into all of that, and why is it so important in your practice?
100%. So like I touched on as well, we are the only thing that holds us back from reaching the goals that we have in mind for ourselves, or what we're truly desiring, or what our higher self aligns with, are the limitations that we place on ourselves. And where are those limitations created? In our mind. And yes, they're shaped through things that we have maybe experienced, that we've applied meaning to, just limitations that society have placed on us. So I'm going to touch on both of those, external and external sources, throughout our talk, but we create them. We create the guilt, and we create the shame, and we create the toxic environment that's in our head. But just as easily as we can create that, we can shift out of it and create something that aligns with what we want, and release those limitations and release those toxic feelings and emotions. So mindset, to answer your question, I say all that to say, is everything. Because like I said before, you can find all that information. You could go find that right now for free, but you're not, like I'm telling you, probably 99% of the time, you're not going to do it, or you'll do it for a little bit of time and you'll stick to it, or you won't stick to it. So mindset is everything.
Yes, exactly. That actually stirred up another question in me, but I'm going to hold my tongue for a second, because I want to just touch on, what in essence, before we get too deep into this, is like, what is mindset coaching? What is transformational coaching? Like, what is that process? Can you lead us through that?
Absolutely. So mindset coaching, what I set out to do when I'm coaching is enable and empower you to see the perspective from a different lens. So I am just here to guide you to see things differently, right? Because the way that our current reality, again, is shaped on past experiences that we applied meaning to, and then that is projected outwards for how we see things, interpret things, and go from there, right? So I am here as a guide to enable you to see that from a lens that is more self-serving. And I would say that is like how that plays into my coaching, for sure.
Self-serving. Yeah. And maybe we can just talk about that for a second. Yeah. What do you mean by self-serving?
So especially on the topics of guilt and shame, we create a lot of these environments within ourselves, mindsets, things that we tell ourselves internally, and again, our reality in turn, based on usually things that aren't self-serving. And these perspectives and thoughts and feelings that aren't self-serving are what's holding us back. But we often think that thinking this way or feeling like negative emotions such as guilt and shame will prompt change for us. So we think that if we feel, again, the negative stuff, it will lead to positive. But the inverse is true. It's when we create that toxic mindset within ourselves, those thoughts and feelings and emotions, they actually cause us to usually spin off in the opposite direction. And therefore we remain stuck. We dive deeper into the hole and nothing changes.
Got it. Yep. That's very true. And I'm like snapping in the background here. I'm like, yep, that's real. How many times have I been there? So, okay, great. Now, when it comes to food, you know, let's pedal back here. Why does shame and guilt, why does shame and guilt exist around food?
So, excited that you asked this question. It's twofold. So shame and guilt exists around food, and because it's created both internally and externally. So when we, the internal creation, when we set goals for ourselves, so usually if this is a weight loss goal or just like a general health, wellness, well-being goal, and we want to stick to it, when we choose to consume something, whether that's food, alcohol, drinks, that doesn't necessarily align with our end objective, we feel guilt and shame. And when we feel the guilt and shame, we think it's going to propel us in the direction of achieving that goal. So we think, oh, if I make this choice, I'm going to punish myself or feel bad about this. And that will create me to go back, or sorry, that will steer me back in the correct direction that I want to go. So that's where the internal creation stems from. The external creation comes from society, and in so many different ways. Social media. So we see all of our fitness gurus are eating chicken and broccoli and sweet potatoes for every meal, but they're not, right? So then we guilt ourselves, because trust me, I was one of them. We're not. And it's and then we feel guilty, but that guilt is again a creation from within, but based on external sources. The other thing where guilt and shame stems from is again, food is something that is very, very central to our society. So sharing meals with friends, holiday meals, which is what we just experienced. And we think that, so when we come together for these meals with others, right, we're thinking about togetherness. We're thinking about being, sharing experiences with each other. Cooking for somebody is a way of affection. And when we want to maybe not participate in that because of our goals, right, we feel guilt and we feel shame to consume the food based on that interaction with other people. So we think internally, if we're getting real deep, we could potentially, if we dig down to it, think that we could be abandoned, we could be rejected by other people, and we could not be part of whatever's going on. So then we feel guilt and shame from that aspect of not being together or part of what's going on. And then that causes us to lead to the internal guilt and shame, which again causes us to fall off again. Does that make sense?
Yes. And oh, my sweet, dear goddess above, like hands up if all of y'all have been there. I've been there so hard. And as you were speaking, I just, I think, so far back it's in our DNA to come together, around a fire, around a hearth, to share food with each other. And what does it look like? If one of our community members isn't sharing with us, what does that mean? And so it goes back so far, and it's so deeply ingrained in us that we almost have to share. It's around like a ritual almost, and so we hold that, we carry it in deep within our genes. And when we don't share with someone, or we say no thank you, and we have some other food in mind, if we're on a specific eating paradigm or whatever, obviously, like you said, internally that causes us to feel different, to feel maybe disconnected. And then externally, everyone else around us is shooting us these like laser dagger eyes of judgment, yes. Right? Yes. Of feelings of guilt. And I felt that.
So, and what I want to also add to that too is like, sometimes even if they're actually not shooting us those daggers of trying to guilt trip us, we still sometimes, most of the time, think that they are. That's a whole other layer too, right? Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I'm coming around the fire here. I'm with my family members, my friends. We're being COVID safe. How can I, and for everyone who's listening in right now, how can we change our life on the inside? How is our mindset so affected by this? How can we really start from scratch, so to speak, and pardon the pun, to make real change happen on the outside?
So are we first discussing like, so in the community setting, so like guilt and shame that can be from sharing food with others, or?
Yeah, let's talk about maybe on an individual basis first, and if there's more, we can expand out.
Okay, perfect. So within ourselves, we have to first become aware of what's happening, right? So guilt and shame are often so automatic and so ingrained within us, because even from a young age, like I remember literally being in grade 6. So I was like, 11 years old. And one of my girlfriends was like, no, I'm on a diet, because I tried to like share a cookie with her. And I'm like, maybe I should feel bad eating this cookie. Maybe I should eat this cookie. Right. And I remember that guilt and shame starting from such a young age. So it's very, very much ingrained with us. And it's something in turn that we do automatically. So I think the first step to creating change in any area of life is you need to become aware of what you want to shift. Right. And we're actually going to do an exercise. I have a quick exercise if we have time at the end for everybody to do that and start to become aware and shift that within themselves as well. But first step is becoming aware. Then once we're aware of what we're experiencing. So for example, acknowledging that I feel guilt and I feel shame. Okay. And then also acknowledging, be like, what is this guilt and shame trying to tell me? What am I making it mean about myself? Okay, so then we dig a little deeper and we apply how it relates to our identity. That's a big thing. We often don't shift things, big, powerful things in life, because what is currently existing right now, the habit, the thought, the pattern, is we believe it's part of us. We believe it can't shift. It's part of our identity. And those are the bigger ones that, again, we fall back on, even if consciously we know that we don't, because we make it mean something about ourselves, right? So step 1 is becoming aware of what's happening. Step 2 is, what am I making this mean about myself? So for example, say I'm on an eating program and I want to lose 20 pounds, okay? I have a cookie the one day because I'm like, I want a cookie. I feel the guilt. So I acknowledge like, hey, I'm feeling guilty right now about eating this cookie. And then what I like to do is just close my eyes, sit with it, allow myself to let this emotion come up and be like, what is this trying to tell me? And then that's when the voice in our head starts going, you're doing something wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. You're going to fail. And acknowledging those thoughts that are coming up and just writing them down. Right. And they sound, again, that's also part of the awareness step. But when we write them down, we're like, this is so silly. Like, this is actually like, this is crazy. And they begin to lose their power that way. So the step 3 is starting to shift. So we're aware of what we're experiencing. We're aware of the thoughts that are coming up. Now we have to make the conscious decision to be like, okay, how do I want to show up moving forward? Or what is my true identity? Or how do I want my life to play out now? Because I know feeling guilty isn't making me feel good. And I know me telling myself these toxic things aren't true and it's ridiculous. And like, I wouldn't even say these things to somebody that I hate. So why am I saying them to myself? And then being like, okay, moving forward, I'm choosing to do this instead. So we can make the conscious choice and again, become aware of it and flow ourselves into what path we want to follow now. And then another thing is, because again, we're not perfect, the guilt comes up again, right? Because it probably will after that first time becoming aware, disrupting that pattern. So I believe it was a Tony Robbins video that I first sourced this from. And it's just disrupting the pattern when it's happening. So In the video, Tony was talking about how, like, if a thought, feeling, emotion starts to come up that doesn't serve you, he would snap his fingers and go switch. So instead of spiraling off in our head, we do something to disrupt it and be like, okay, like, I don't want to go there, right? And also asking ourselves, like, what if I didn't go there, right? Because if you think about, okay, without going on too much of a tangent, if I'm right here, right, and this to my right of me is me thinking self-serving thoughts, positive things, choosing to live my life in a way that I want, right? And then this direction is going off into what I like to call a shame spiral. So the guilt, the shame, the self-talk, the negativity, I have to soothe myself now because I'm making myself feel so terrible, right? What if we didn't go there? What if that opportunity to go in that direction is just a door that closes, and then we put our back against that door, and our only option is to go into this positive space, right? So become aware of what's happening. Then from there, if the pattern comes up again, disrupt it. So be like, okay, no, I'm not going there. And then picture that door closing and be like, okay, how am I showing up now instead that this isn't even an option for me anymore? So that's the internal structure of how I think shifting and what I've experienced within myself, because this is something that runs so deep for me. And I can talk about that in a little bit, kind of my journey with food shame. But with myself and with clients, this has been like very, very effective for starting to make that shift.
Okay. You said so many good little nuggets there, Bri, and I really like that kind of process that you laid out, the kind of step 1, step 2, step 3. Super simple, easier said than done, right? So maybe what's like one barrier or one obstacle that people tend to get brought up on when they're first going through that process? So maybe just for the audience to know, as they're going through, this might be happening for some of them.
Great question, Erin. I think the biggest barrier that you will encounter is, well, actually there's 2 of them. The first is, this is something that's generally automatic for you. So again, you're shifting a habit, a behavioral pattern that you've had since you were younger. And what I find will come up again as a barrier to that is just shifting something that feels so ingrained within us. We have the power to shift whatever we want, but it's actually believing that you can, right? So that's one of the biggest barriers. And then the second is when or if we find ourselves in a situation that we find ourselves maybe slipping into that thought process again, disrupting it and not falling back into what feels comfortable. Because as humans, we always want to move away from pain and towards pleasure or comfort, right? In any area of life, that's what we do. We never want to feel uncomfortable. So again, when we're shifting into, and sorry, there's sirens going off, always by my house. So when we're shifting a thought pattern, a behavior, a habit, it can sometimes feel unfamiliar to us. And that unfamiliarity, so who am I if I don't feel guilty? Who am I if I don't feel shameful? And if we're not familiar with who that person is, we're not going to step into it, right? So also identifying for yourself, be like, okay, if I don't feel guilty, if I don't feel shameful, I feel like this instead. I feel grateful. I feel happy. I feel fulfilled. I feel empowered, right? And then you transition into those emotions. So you need to seek out how you want to feel and how you want to show up if this isn't part of your life. Because if it's automatic and it's familiar, you're just going to keep doing it. And if you actually don't know what you want to do instead, then you'll just keep going back to it. So to answer your questions, obstacle 1 is just not knowing who you are if you're not guilty and shameful. And obstacle 2 is has been automatic for you for so long, and it's not difficult to break the habit, but it takes conscious effort to break the habit.
And repetition, I find, is very useful in that, just knowing that the first, maybe second, maybe third, fourth, fifth time, you're not gonna get it right. But as long as you take steps toward that, and maybe you will get it right, maybe on the 7th or 8th time, you veer off a little bit and it feels different and it feels like you didn't succeed. But as long as you keep going toward that goal, so big and very useful, in the self-compassion kind of aspect of it.
1% better every day. That's it. And that leads to exponential growth. You don't have to be perfect, and perfect's not real. That's another thing, is like, that's actually another obstacle. A lot of people think they have to do it perfectly. And if I don't do it perfectly, then I go back to what's comfortable. But perfect's not achievable, because perfect isn't real. No one's perfect. So just show up a little bit better than you did yesterday, and that will keep adding up for you as well.
Ooh, I love that. I'm curious, for the listeners, I would love to know, and maybe just to get a little bit more audience engagement here, what's one type of food that you're actually really struggling with, and what's that one food that you want to actually transform your shame or your guilt around? Let's get our little thinking caps on and really just, just wonder about it. And maybe it comes right to your head automatically. Maybe it doesn't. But I would love to know, because like for me personally, and I said this in my little Instagram post, oh my goodness, chips, salt and vinegar, Miss Vickie's, they're my go-to. They're my favorite things in the world. And I'm starting slowly, like Bri said, to kind of go through that process of releasing some of that shame around it, and realizing that, like, sometimes it's all right for me to have salty chips. And I do that. And the same thing happened, actually, Bri, if I can share, as folks share, my relationship with alcohol. And so I've been sober for about almost 3 years now. And the exact process happened for me. I was drinking, I couldn't stop, it was a total addiction for me. And the moment that my mind changed, the moment that I actually shifted into gratitude and looked at alcohol as my friend, and that it had been with me by my side for so long, for years, when maybe I felt no one else was, or I didn't have enough support. That was the turning point for me. It was so crazy how almost immediately effective that was for me to just shine light on the fact and give gratitude. And every time I went to go pour a glass of whiskey, which is like my favorite alcohol in the world, I would pick up the bottle and I would just say thank you to it. And eventually it got to a point where I didn't want to pour anymore. I was just saying thank you to it, and thank you so much for being there with me all that time. Thank you for what you have done for me. Thank you for all the friends you've given me. All the places that you've taken me, good or bad. And I just kept doing it, kept at it. And then all of a sudden what seemed like all of a sudden, but was over the span of about a 3 weeks, 4-week period, it really just shifted my entire mindset toward alcohol. And I no longer needed it. I was able to fully release it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Erin.
Thank you. And I know you have a very similar story, Bri. I'm wanting to leave space right now for you to share that if you'd like.
I would love to. Very, very similar. Food for me was my crutch for a lot of things. And again, to kind of summarize the last 10 years, when I was feeling anxious and depressed, I would eat. Okay, that caused me to gain 30 pounds in a year in university, and then led to me drinking because I was miserable, and then spun me off in that direction. And what I want to talk about after with that as well is like the food, the overindulging, and the guilt that I felt from eating and gaining weight caused me to drink, okay, to self-soothe because of the guilt. And that's what I realized is like, when we go there, when we go down the guilt and shame spiral, again, because we want to move away from pain and towards pleasure, we will do things to self-soothe. So sometimes that will be to eat more and then feel shameful and then eat more, or drink, or some other thing down that path. So what led to the next part of my journey was then I started doing fitness competitions, and then I would be so strict, and then like ripped for half the year. And then naturally you're going to put some body fat back on because you cannot stay that size year round. It's impossible. But then I would feel, if I had anything that wasn't chicken, broccoli, and sweet potatoes, I would feel guilt and shame. And then because I would feel guilt and shame, I would eat more. And then I was gaining weight pretty rapidly. And then I would feel guilty and shameful and keep eating. And then I was self-soothing again. right? So feeling like the biggest thing, a couple of big things happened for me when I realized that feeling guilt and shame caused me to usually do something else that wasn't self-serving. That changed everything. So then I started to tell myself, what if I didn't go there? And I took the negative charge out of it. I take the energy out of it. And then it didn't have as much power over me anymore. Okay. And then also another big catalyst for change for me was realizing that you don't have to resist food. You don't have to resist it. And when we resist things, it's like they're coming at us. It's like they're attacking us and we're trying to push it away, right? And the thing that's pushing it away is our willpower. I must resist. I must resist. Willpower is an emotion. So it comes and it goes and it doesn't stay with us permanently, right? Like that's why we feel super motivated sometimes, where we feel like we have all this willpower and other times we don't. It's an emotion, just like when we're happy and sad. So we're using this temporary thing that's not present with us all the time to try to resist food and giving this food all this power, and it's coming at us. It's like, right? You're not going to win. You never win, right? So then when you switch the power, like you said, with the alcohol, you stopped giving the alcohol the power over you. And you took that power within and you ask yourself, this is what I like to call the resistance versus empowerment paradigm. When we're not resisting anymore and we're making the empowered choice, instead of it being like, I got to resist this thing, it's more like, does this align with what I'm trying to achieve right now? What I want to feel, how I want to look, how I want to show up? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. I can have a little bit and I'm not going to feel guilt and shame. No, I'm making the empowered choice to not consume it. I have the power. That thing, the food, the alcohol, whatever, doesn't have the power over me anymore. So it was those two things that really, really transformed things for me. It was just like realizing that guilt and shame, because I think it was going to course correct me. It doesn't. It was spiraling me off in the other direction and making things worse. Realizing that I didn't even have to experience that and I didn't even have to go there. And then the second was not resisting food, alcohol, anything I was consuming. It was making empowered choices and taking my power back in those scenarios.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Bri. And it's such a journey, that we've been on. And that's, I think, a really important point for everyone listening in. It's not just overnight, even though it might seem like it from the outside perspective, but these are challenges. These are things that people really struggle with for years and years and years around, especially when it comes to food, because, really, we get contact with food 3, 4, 5, maybe even more times per day. And that's something really to know. And like one of our audience members said, to own, really just go into every situation and own your choice. Like you reiterated there too, Bri, just own it, and it takes a lot of courage to step into that power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the only, we're not victims. The only way something has power over us is if we give it power. The only way we have a toxic environment in our head is if we create it, right? You create everything in your life. So it's just a matter of taking your power back in all those different regards, right?
Yes, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that so much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And
can I add one more thing really quickly?
Of course.
To me. The other thing is too, so if you also do find yourself in a scenario where you consume something that might not align with what you're working towards right now, change your words that you're telling yourself, because words have a very powerful hold on us. So what you did wasn't bad. You're not a bad person. You're not failing. It just doesn't align. And then again, takes the energetic charge of it. And then moving forward, we don't have to guilt and shame ourselves to course correct. Just hop right back on. That's what I tell my clients, like day after Christmas, I'm like, just hop back on. They're like, oh yeah, it can be that simple. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go there. Right.
Yeah. We tend to create so many obstacles in our own head.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. We're getting close to a question and answer period. So everyone tuning in, just keep your questions and comments for just a couple minutes. I did have another question though, Bri, about, and I know that you have a background in, being a certified personal trainer. You've also given a lot of nutritional advice, obviously throughout the years with your clients. So how does, fitness, nutrition, and mindset coaching and transformational coaching all kind of combine together to help your clients release that guilt and shame around their food?
Yeah, exactly. So I think if you were to think about it, Erin, in terms of an equation, okay, we have our end goal for what we want, right? But we have an equation for how we're going to get there, okay? And in this equation, we need to take action. So we need to do the fitness routine. We need to eat the food. We need to rest, drink the water, take the vitamins, okay? We need to do the things and the action. We need to know what we want, okay? So have a clear goal in mind, right? We also need to have the emotion or that faith or that belief that it's already ours, that we're worthy of it, that it is coming into existence and we're going to make it happen. So picture those three things in brackets. So we add all those together. But then what we subtract are the limiting beliefs, the self-created stories. When I say traumas, I use that in the sense of like something that has happened in life that we have applied meaning to, not a traumatic event. It could be a traumatic event, but not always. Subtracting those limiting beliefs, those things that don't serve us, those self-deprecating thoughts, feelings, and emotions. When we get those out of the way, then we can reach the end of the equation and have our desired results. So all three things need to work in tandem with each other. But again, we can have the mindset for it, but we have to do the things to get us there. And we can do the things, but if we don't have the right mindset, nothing's going to change. So it's all, I guess you could picture it as an equation to reach the desired results, triangle, because they're all major pillars. They all have to work in tandem with each other to get you there.
Yeah, I love that. It's really great to create that sort of visual for folks, especially me, who's, I'm a very visual learner. So it really is useful for that. Bri, I have maybe a final question from myself until we get more from the audience.
Yeah.
And I ask this to everyone here on Inspiring Insights. What keeps you most inspired? What keeps you going?
I love that question, Erin. And to be completely honest, it is those messages that I get from my clients to say, like, I see life differently now. Or one of my clients messaged me this week. She's like, I'm almost down 30 pounds. And I'm like, all the emotions come up and I'm just like, yes, like this, everything that I went through in life, like means something. And I'm able to help other people like as a result of it. Right. And it's those messages and those results and just like those communications. Like I do a Monday group coaching call with all my clients and have everyone share their experiences and we work through different processes together. And it's so incredible. That's what keeps me inspired. And it's just getting off of those calls or having those interactions and just be like, this is truly incredible. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, of course. It's beautiful to have that sense of community as well, somewhere, a space where women and other folks can actually come and really, be honest about their struggles and about their process and not just share the outcome. I think it's really important. And it shows how much meaning it does give for you. And that's really nice to see.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. What keeps you inspired, Erin?
Oh, thank you. I've never gotten that question back. Yeah. I would say hearing the inspirations and passions of other folks and leaning into the process piece for sure. And that's what I really liked about your answer is that, the outcome is one thing. And I think it's a beautiful thing to kind of work toward results and achieve goals. But celebrating really small wins along the way is so big and something we really don't do and something we're not really told to do. And I think that's one of the best things that I have done, that I've practiced, and that I'm still continuing to learn from and learn about how to really celebrate the small little things in my life that I do every single day that keep me going.
I love that. I love that for sharing that.
Thank you. Brianna, this has been such a pleasure. I'm going to open it up to the floor now. Any of the audience members have any questions? And of course, if you've signed up and you actually couldn't make it live here tonight, but you are on the registration page, a link to the replay will be sent directly to your inbox. And if you're here at the question and answer period right now, If you do have any questions, just write them in the chat box as per usual, and it will actually get emailed directly to me, and I'll forward them on to Bree if it's pertinent to her. Otherwise, I can try to answer it myself. But for now, anyone here live joining us, have any questions, have any comments? Maybe take this time even to, have Brianna as your one-on-one coach kind of thing if you have certain questions about something that you really are burning to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go for it. But in the meantime, while we wait for that as well, if you're interested in learning more as well, I have a group coaching program called Align, and I work with women to essentially do the things that we talked about today. So release guilt and shame around food, to again, have this be the last time that you transform your body, lose the weight, get healthy, create that lifestyle that you're always wanting for yourself. And right now, with this webinar as well, I'm offering a free discovery call and one-on-one session for anybody interested. So if you're interested, you can reach out to me at my email, Brianna at briannamhar.com, and I would be happy to talk with you about your journey and see if I can help you in any way that I can.
That's amazing, Bree. Thank you so much for that beautiful offer. Just for anyone listening to this and not necessarily watching the screen, Mhar is spelled M-H-A-R, and that is .com, right, Brianna?
Yes, .com.
I'll just type it right into the...
Oh, sorry. .com at the end, yes.
Great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Great. Okay, well, there's no questions right now that are coming up. Obviously, of course, y'all have our contact information. Like I just said before, you can message us directly through the replay here. Also, we're on Instagram, Reawaken_Co, like I mentioned. And Brianna, what's your handle on Instagram?
Just at Brianna Mhar. So yeah,
perfect.
It's the same name.
That's great, Brianna. Lovely episode to round off this hectic, ridiculous, bananas year that we've had. And I'm so happy that we're all still on the trend of health, still on the trend of wellness. And thank you so much for everyone joining and tuning in today. Yes, the link is shareable, Vanessa. And I also will be putting the whole replay onto our YouTube channel, like I mentioned earlier as well. So you can share that YouTube channel link as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so excited. Thank you so much for having me today, Erin. This is so incredible to be able to share this space with you. And I'm just so proud of you for everything that you've accomplished. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being right alongside with me. Everyone have a great night. We're on back in the new year, 2021. January 6th is our next installment, the next episode. We're on here every Wednesday, so tune in. And until then, stay healthy, stay well, and stay inspired.
Yes, love that. Bye, everyone.